Have you ever wanted to speak at a conference but don't really know where to start or what kind of topic to talk about? In this video, I'm going to share some tips, tricks, and encouragement to hopefully get you excited about speaking at your first conference. I originally did this presentation for Design by Humanity, but thought it might be valuable to my YouTube audience. And there's a lot of reasons why you may want to consider speaking at conferences. Some of the benefits include building your own credibility, polishing up your presentation skills, and you can even get to a point where you get paid to speak. Yeah, I said it. You can actually get paid to speak at conferences. But no, this doesn't happen right away. It's something that you have to work up to. A lot of the various conferences that you speak at will actually allow you to come to the conference for free if you speak. I consider that a speaking fee, but I know that some may or may not feel that way, but I at least want to level set expectations, knowing that you probably won't get paid to speak right out of the gate, but it is something that you can work up to. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So as you can see, this is 2016 and a picture of my very first conference presentation. Now, it took a long time for me to get here. A big piece of advice I give, especially new learning development professionals, is do not be like me. Do not live under a rock for most of your career like I did. But I was actually in a situation where I was working at an organization and working for someone who did not really want to help me get to the next level, and I really started to feel bad about myself. I had a lot of doubt in myself as a learning development professional, and there was something specifically said that really triggered me to the point where I actually kind of thought about leaving learning and development. And then something inside me kind of spoke and said, listen, you are good enough. Like, prove that person wrong. You can do it. And so I did. And so I mustered up enough courage and I spoke at the Greater Cincinnati ATD chapter, my very first conference. And it really boosted a lot of stuff for me. I mean, it made me start to feel better about myself. I met other learning and development professionals that were way more encouraging than the folks that I had in my current situation, and I just knew that this was something that I needed to do in order to grow my career. And again, at this point, I was really looking to move into like a senior instructional design role, and I knew if I wanted to pivot into that role that I would need to get better at presenting and also get some folks to believe in me, and that's something that I didn't really have a lot of in my work situation. So I cannot tell you how important that first presentation was to me in my career, truly, but I can also tell you how terrifying it was. And so if the thought of speaking at a conference terrifies you, fear not. I'm going to give you some tips to hopefully get over some of those hurdles that you may have. So for me, I think I went through 3 different phases of presenting at conferences. The first was a terror phase, which I will dive right into here in just a moment. The second was a refinement, and this came after I started to feel more comfortable in my skin as who I am as a professional, as well as with presenting. And then the third phase, and to me the best phase of this, is the fact that I can encourage others and support other people to put themselves out there. And I currently say that I'm at phase 3. I still do speak at conferences, just not as much, because honestly, I just don't have as much time as I used to. But I am excited that now I'm able to even keynote at places, and I've really worked my way kind of up the conference circuit, so to speak. So again, really excited that I'm able to encourage others and lift other folks up, and I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and again, ideas on what you could do maybe your first presentation on. Glossophobia, the fear of public speaking, is estimated to impact 77% of humans on the planet, according to a study by Very Well Mind. To add to this anxiety, as a child, I did struggle with speech a little bit, and I had a speech pathologist that I would go to. And even though I feel like I can say most words. There's still words that elude me, and some of my family know what those words are, and I'm not going to give you that insight here today. But for me, I needed something and a community to support me, and I found that in Toastmasters. Now, if you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it is an organization that is global, and essentially it has just regular meetings, and there's kind of these little mini challenges that folks go through. So they have a formal program you can go through called, actually it's changed since last time that I've been, so I better not speak about what it's called because honestly I don't know off the top of my head, but it used to be called the Competent Communicator. I believe it's called something differently now, where you had a challenge of 10 different little speeches that you needed to put together, and you did this in front of the audience of your chapter. And as you were up there presenting, people would give you evaluative feedback. It was always good, solid feedback. It wasn't too nice, but it also wasn't harsh. And I really enjoyed getting that feedback. I even also enjoyed being an evaluator for the club that I was a part of. And so I was part of Toastmasters for over a year. And then, my life just kind of got more hectic, but I would go to Toastmasters every Thursday evening for a year. No exaggeration. Met a lot of lovely, wonderful people through Toastmasters. Maybe it's something I'll get back into eventually, but if you need that support, if you need that community, I just cannot say enough good things about Toastmasters. And I will also say, if you try out a chapter or a club and it's not for you, go to a different one. That's fine. I was very fortunate. I was part of the City of Columbus chapter, and I really met some wonderful people there. So really highly recommend Toastmasters. So if joining something doesn't really appeal to you, there's a lot of individual things you can do as well to develop your public speaking skills. So the first one here is Orai. I think that's how you pronounce it, or maybe it's Orai, not sure. Heard about this first from Myra Roldan. It's a really neat app. Here is just some of the features of it. It gives you different prompts that you can answer. It tracks real time. You can get a 7-day free trial, looks like, and then it's $10 a month. And it does also look like you have a coaching package here for $200, one-time fee if you're interested in something like that. Another option you can use is actually in PowerPoint. So if you go to Slideshow and Office 365, you should have an option for Rehearse with Coach. Now what this is going to do is it will bring up for me on another screen, the presentation. I click that, I'm ready to start practicing. I'm going through the presentation like I normally would, and as you can see, it is listening to me as I am speaking. And so as it's listening, I would actually stop, and then maybe here in a second you can see it would give me some feedback on that. So as I'm going through, it's listening, and then when I take a pause, it gives me instant feedback. Or if I don't want to pause and I want to go all the way through, I get this really, really nice report here at the end that gives me some really nice feedback. So again, this is another option for you. Of course, it's always great to do it in front of a live audience as well, but if you didn't really want to do that and you just wanted to kind of use tools that were available to you, using PowerPoint might be a great option. So once I got over the fear of public speaking, I was really hungry for refining and feedback. And so there's a lot of ways you can get feedback after you've done a presentation at a conference. So one way is if the conference has evaluations, you can ask for that data. Now, depending on where you speak at, I know the Learning Guild is really good about this. They'll actually send that feedback over to you after your presentation. And so for me, I know the first time that I spoke at DevLearn, getting that feedback back was really touching, but I will also warn you, this shouldn't come as a surprise. There is usually a piece or two of feedback that you're like, huh, what? So for example, I actually got a piece of feedback from my DevLearn presentation in 2019 where someone was upset that they couldn't find a seat in the room. That didn't have anything to do with me and the way that my presentation was. So, kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, last question, and it's a doozy. You ready? What's a question you would like to ask me? Get one
Oh,
question for me.
oh my goodness. Golly. What was the worst piece of conference feedback you ever got?
Oh my gosh. So here's my honest truth about conference feedback. It takes me about a month or two before I can open it. Like I get it, I see it, and I might just quickly like ooh, and then I close it, and I try not to read it too soon because even if it's been months after, because it just fills me with dread. So I'm trying to remember which exact one, if there was like a specific piece that was just usually it's the stuff. I'm going to generalize here, but it's like um, didn't seem to know what he was talking about, or like just like went too fast and his slides were didn't have enough content on them, or things like that. Just like I can't, or things I can't do anything about, or if they would have just like said something like I couldn't hear him in the back of the room, like I can fix that if you tell me then. I can't do anything now. So just sometimes it's like I get really good feedback, and then there's always a few that are you're just like you're reading it and you're like, why? But I'm also the person. I take the good feedback and I'm like, oh, nice, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, bad feedback. Oh, whatever it said, and amplify it 30,000 times. Like I shouldn't do it, but that's what I do. So, how about
If
you?
it makes you feel any better, yeah, I had a DevLearn feedback that basically said negative. It's like I couldn't get in the room and there was no seat for me. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Will you stop being so gosh darn good and popular that people want to fill the room? I mean, well,
I don't know.
next time I'm at your session, if I have a seat, I will gladly give it up and stand in the back for that person. So someone can come tap me on the shoulder and I'll give up my seat for them so they can be in your session.
If you're speaking somewhere and you want to kind of control your own feedback mechanism, here is a nice tool. Mike Taylor uses this. It's called TalkBook. And what you can do with TalkBook, you can get 2 free talks with it for free. But basically, it's just a little page that people go to, pop in their email address, and then you can offer the resources from your presentation feedback there if you'd like to get some feedback from folks that way. And then again, old fashioned way, but still tried and true. Ask people in the audience, hey, what did you think about that? How did that go for you? And be prepared because people will definitely tell you what they think. Once you've started to get feedback and refine your presentation, then another thing that you might want to do is to start making goals and, of course, crushing them. So to me, there was no mountain higher than speaking at DevLearn. And DevLearn is a tougher conference to get into. Even submitting a proposal for DevLearn can really up your anxiety. So I wanted to continue to get better so I could speak at DevLearn. And as my friend Anna Leach would say, you think about what will be in your retirement speech someday. Me speaking at DevLearn the first time and being able to do it with my friends cheering me on will definitely be a moment I will cherish for the rest of my life. So now for the fun part, how to encourage others to speak. And this is something I take very seriously because, again, had people not believed in me, pushed me, and encouraged me, I would have never spoke at a conference and I would never had the fortitude to do so. So some of the things that I enjoy doing to try to help is I like to offer occasionally when I have time co-working sessions. And so in these co-working sessions, basically I invite people to come show their proposals, get some kind of peer review feedback on it, because often you build these things kind of in a tunnel and it's really helpful to have other people's input on your proposals. So I love doing that. But perhaps my magnum opus of trying to encourage others was as I was a president of the Central Ohio ATD chapter, I made a program to showcase emerging professionals. And this program really means a lot to me. This is a program I had to fight pretty hard for. I will tell you that I was against a lot of opposition and I did do the burden of the work here. and I'm very proud of it. And I think that being able to encourage first-time conference speakers in a way that gives them that encouragement, lets them get feedback from people in the profession, it was just a tremendous thing. And I don't know if it's going to continue for this year with the chapter that I used to be president of, but if you're watching this and you are at an ATD chapter and you would like to have a conversation about building a program like this, let me know. I really think that it is just a fantastic opportunity. So I'll show you some clips and an agenda of our latest emerging professional showcase just to kind of show you how we did it. I know this has been a long video. Obviously, this is a very passionate topic of mine. So if you're still with me and you made it this far in the video, if you'd be kind enough to comment your favorite color with this video, it would also help the algorithm. And again, like, share, and subscribe. It really does help my channel a lot, and I really appreciate it. So here is a nice little fact that the Guild also talks about, that their conferences, they kind of earmark 15 to 20% of their agenda for first-time speakers. And that's huge because that gives you a tremendous opportunity to speak at these conferences. I know that some of the Guild events even have these little micro presentations, another great way, again, to get some experience under your belt. But I know what you're thinking. What on earth can I talk about? So now let's dive into some different topics that you might want to consider for your first conference speaking engagement. Now, please know this is not an exhaustive list, but this is some things to kind of get you thinking. And I have some examples of different ways people have used these for speaking engagement. So the first one is, what did you learn your first year as an instructional designer, learning management system administrator, fill in the blank here. And why this is a great topic for a first-time speaker is, number one, you own those experiences and you're going to be able to kind of tell the tale of things that were really enlightening to you. But number two, I love going to these sessions anytime I see them at a conference because I always learn something too. And just because this may be your first time experiencing something, don't discount that because there's a lot of things that people can learn from you in the way that you approach something. So I love that topic. Another one is a case study. So what was something that you did at work? How did you implement it? What can others learn from it? And I'm thinking specifically, is there something that you built that other people can maybe apply some of the same principles to their work? That's always a great one. Another great one is actually deconstructing something that you made, walking through the process of the analysis, how you designed it, how you made your different choices, what kind of feedback, and then again, how did you evaluate it? I love always hearing all those wonderful evaluative nuggets. Another one, if you are part of a formal education program, you're going to be writing a lot of papers usually, and you're going to be asked to do literature reviews. And I really think that you have an opportunity to bring in some of the research that you're reading about and apply it to the learning experience. And so being able to deconstruct that, walk people through that, that is also a valuable insight. Another great session is a build it together. So if you're really great with graphic design or specific tools, or if you have kind of a neat way that you prototype, whatever that looks like, being able to put together kind of a bring your own device session, those are always really popular sessions. And of course, finally, if you don't have rich resources in the place that you're currently working, or if you're a freelancer, sharing those kind of budget hacks of, I don't have a lot of money, but here's what I do to kind of build these great learning experiences. Those are always really popular sessions as well. All right, if you want to see an example of what I learned in my first year, look no further than the incredible Tim Slade. So Tim put together a presentation, 10 lessons I learned my first year in e-learning, and let me tell you, it has tons of nuggets. Him going back through kind of his first year as an e-learning developer. Another cool thing that Tim did with this is Tim actually made this an ebook. And so that's another great way if you're thinking about, having that conference presentation live on, so to speak. He actually made this an ebook, and dare I say, maybe I think it was his first book, which is really, really cool. So feel free to share those great little nuggets of knowledge. Again, you just never know what you're going through that could help somebody else. All right, this one features my friend Jonathan Rock, aka J Rock, and it is kind of a mashup of some of the starter prompts that I gave you. So this is a case study, this is a how-to, this is a budget tools all in one. And so what this is he made this amazing compliance game for his organization that had a Stranger Things flair to it. And what's so great about this is he talks about being a department of one. He talks about how he had to take a lot of time researching and looking into stuff to try to make things work. He created a lot of the assets for this in PowerPoint. He walks through his design decisions. It's just a tremendous, tremendous presentation. And I do actually have a link that I'll put in a card up here and also put it in the description below. If you want to watch this full presentation, it is out there through the TLDC, and I will link that below. But yeah, I highly recommend anyone that wants to learn about just the way that someone approaches e-learning development. This is a must watch. Another must watch is this from Jonathan Hill. This actually came from his very first DevLearn presentation, where he talks about how you can build AI opponents in Storyline without using any coding. This is just an absolute masterclass in what you can do in Articulate Storyline. Again, another must watch. It's a case study explaining how to do it. It's kind of those bring your own device sessions I was talking about, a deep dive into a tool. And you can actually watch this even if you didn't go to DevLearn. I will link to Jonathan Hill's website where through a donation you can watch this. And I, again, highly recommend it. If you want to push your storyline to the next level, this is fantastic. The rest of the examples will come from presentations that I've done. And so this was actually from my Case of the Disengaged Learner, which was my DevLearn presentation. And basically, I got the content of this from an assignment during my PhD work at Ohio State. And so I did a literature review on engagement and got really frustrated that there was no kind of boilerplate definition. So I thought that it'd be really neat to kind of a mystery around what does engagement mean. And so this is a great way. Again, I was research that I brought into practice. I showed how people could apply it into the learning experience that they might be making, and this was really kind of pushing the envelope for me. I never made anything kind of this creative from a presentation standpoint before, but I don't know if I'll ever top this presentation, to be honest with you, because it really is so sentimental to me because it was something that I did at DevLearn and I got really great feedback from it. Also, too, this presentation was seen by so many people. This is my number one presentation people ask me for if they want me to do it like a local ATD chapter. So think about that as well. Sometimes the content that you create, people would like to see it again, but I continue to iterate and do stuff to it every time I present. This one was one that focused on scenario-based learning, determine the own exploit, pick your own path. I'm not going to say the other one because of this presentation, long story short, they found it on Twitter and I kind of got my hand slapped. So basically this one, how to build a branching video in Camtasia. I wanted to show that there are other ways to build engaging scenario-driven experiences besides using some of the bigger e-learning authoring tools. And this one, again, really fun to put together. This one has also kind of lived on, so to speak. So I've done some streaming around this. I had a series actually here on my YouTube channel you can go back and watch on how to build this in Camtasia. And again, this was really kind of fun to put together, but this one is more in the budget-friendly tools section and how to. And this one came from a Learning Solutions presentation that I did with the incredible Michael Osborne. If you don't know him, you should. He's fantastic. But this also came from just some different research and things that I had to do while I was still in higher education. And so I put together like this little checklist and really wanted to do better when it comes to building accessible learning experiences. So again, kind of through my own research and necessity in my job came a conference presentation because I learned a whole lot. And again, I'm still learning every day. So there you have it. Tips, tricks, and encouragement to help you gain the confidence to speak at a conference. So what do you think? Are any of these tips helpful? Were some of the starter prompts helpful? I'd love to hear more about your insights. If you ever spoke at a conference, if you have any words of wisdom you want to impart, please comment below. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate everything, all the support. I really, really appreciate it. And until next time.